the case is an incoming travel agency, and their challenge was managing transfers between places. What happens when you arrive somewhere? When you arrive in the airport, there are going to be people standing there with Mr. Smith, Mr. Jones, or whatever, XYZ Pharma, or something like that. Like somebody manages to get that to happen, and that would typically be what's known as a destination management company, an incoming travel agency. So this company had, whenever there was a conference, they would receive spreadsheets for transfers, people who needed to be taken from the airport to the venue, from the airport to the hotel, from the hotel to the venue, from the venue to the restaurant, from the restaurant and home, all of that stuff. And they needed to manage that. And this was the solution, an Excel spreadsheet. So this is the way that IT systems are always born, right? Somebody has a problem and they make an Excel spreadsheet. And then at some point, you know, somebody in IT is told, or somebody gets the good idea, well, maybe we should do something about this single user spreadsheet that's lying around somewhere and nobody knows exactly which version is up to date. So they used to receive spreadsheets. So the companies who were buying their services would send them spreadsheets of stuff they needed, everybody in their own format, of course. And somebody would manually merge it into the master spreadsheet. Of course, we have the typical single user challenge, and then things change. So there was an update, so there's 3 people instead of 2 people, and then you have to keep the vendor informed. So when you need more people, then maybe the size of the bus isn't sufficient, so you need to tell the vendor, you need to bring a bigger bus. Or we don't need this bus, or we need it at a different time. And keeping all of that informed and keeping the changelog, what actually happened, was part of the challenge. So what we wanted was to import the spreadsheets. We wanted, of course, to have something multi-user. We wanted to automatically record the changes and report to the vendors. So we built this. The first version of this application was an Apex 4.2 application, and now we were going to do a refresh. So we thought, well, let's have a look at what technologies are out there. And since they asked me, and I'm an Oracle guy, I was, of course, thinking through the Oracle stack, and I came up with, well, there's still Application Express, would still be a good choice. There is, of course, ADF, which I can build applications very quickly in ADF, but not everybody can, apparently. So it was a choice for me. And then there was this brand new thing called, when I started with it, Application Builder Cloud Service, now Visual Builder Cloud Service. So the Apex End-User UI, of course, looks like when I built it in Apex 5.1, I was very happy that we got interactive grid in 5.1. And if you haven't updated your Apex applications to 5.1, you should do so. Every place you have a table, because an interactive grid is what users are expecting of a web application today, and it works well. It's same. The look is pretty much the same as what we have with ADF. It used to be that the ADF table was stronger, had more features than Apex, but with 5.1, Apex definitely caught up. One thing that we have full keyboard navigation, something they were big on. People who come from Excel spreadsheets, they like to use their keyboard. So coming up with some fancy web tool where you'd have to click a lot with the mouse would not be popular. And we have full keyboard navigation both in Apex and in ADF. And then we have Visual Builder Cloud Service. Anybody in here have generated web applications out of Oracle Designer? No? Oracle Designer had a web server generator, something like that. And it generated PL/SQL web applications out of Designer. And they look just like this, only not so nice. So the structure, because the default structure of when you start building an application is the simple structure that you can always use as a starting point is you're creating a list, and if you want to change something, you have a pop-up form or another screen where you can change the details. And that's what a Visual Builder cloud service application, that's the way it works today. There is a collection screen, and then there's detail screens. So if you want to create something, you press create. You don't just create a new record. You press create. You get a separate screen where you can enter all your data. If you want to edit something, you click on the record, then you get an edit form where you can edit things. So from a UI standpoint, I could see that this VBCS was not going to cut it, but for the experience, we still built a VBCS application just to see what it would look like. From the end user perspective, Apex and ADF give you the same thing. If you want a user interface like with the table-like user interface, like the Excel spreadsheet they were used to, then Apex and ADF both does it well. They do keyboard, work well with keyboard. The Apex search is actually what the users want, and the ADF search is what a database guy wants. So an Apex search, when I do a search, just my default Apex application, and I do a search up here, it searches across the records. Of course it does. It's like Google-like search. I'm looking for something. If I write airport, it will find me the records that start at the airport, where the description is airport, where the destination is airport, where the remark is airport. And that is typically what the user wants. Whereas, when a techie designs it, like a database guy designs it, yes, I would like this one to be greater than, and this one equals this, and this one to have these wildcards, and I can do massive queries. This is obviously built by somebody who grew up with enter query mode. Right? So this is like the way forms searches. This is not the way the users search. So from a UI perspective, the row global search in Apex is more of what the users are expecting. You have them, if you need the multi-column search, that comes automatically in ADF, but it would take more effort in Apex. On the other hand, if you want to do an ADF search, what I've typically been building when I've been building ADF applications is I've been building something that looks just like this. So you would search, you would have a field, and you would search across all columns because that's what the users actually want. And then interestingly, when we started with the defaults, the date format the user wanted, the user knows which year it is. So the user wants a compact date format that just says October 5th. When I take a date and don't include the year, then let's see, the year is actually there in the database record. So when I click on the calendar, what do you think happens? 3 things can happen. One is the year is 0. One is the year that's actually in the database, or the year is this year. So Apex chooses today, not the record that's in the database, but today. And ADF defaults to October 5th, 1970. So I would say Apex wins here. That's a more reasonable default. I would actually rather have it actually understand that even though I did not include the year in the format string, that the year was actually there. But okay, none of them won there. VBCS has this first generation web field. It has this, there's a list and you drill down. So for something that's actually used on a desktop application, that's not really the you can do much better than VBCS is doing. So in the development experience, well, Apex has with a new page designer that works well once you get used to it. You can, let's see, what do I have here? Yeah. You can import, now Apex, of course, can import a spreadsheet and create the matching table. So we tried to tell the users what format the spreadsheet had to have. Can anybody imagine what happened? Okay, the users did not read the instructions. So, yeah, what can you expect? So, of course, what happens is that you give the users a format that they're supposed to deliver, and they deliver something that is close but not quite. Then you put that stuff into Apex, and Apex will just happily take the table, create something that matches, and then we would run code that we built a nice data model, just like Heli says we should, and then we created some PL SQL that would take stuff from our staging table and into the actual table. And the Apex feature of just having create me a table that looks like this Excel sheet that was just what we needed. And then we built an interactive grid on top of it. That's nice UI. Works well. So this is the ADF development experience. So that's inside JDeveloper. So as you can see from the size of the font here, that like ADF development definitely requires a big screen, because if you want to work with JDeveloper, it loads you with a lot of stuff on the screen. It's very productive once you get used to it, but can be a bit intimidating. You're working in JDeveloper, not in Apex. ADF does not do data import. ADF is just like forms. Somebody has already built a nice third normal form database, and that's where we start. So it requires the database to be there already. So you need to create your tables. Then you build your business components, and then you build your ADF faces task store on top of it. As we discussed in the last presentation, Apex builds something. If I have a table, and my use case here is I have a table and I need to present the data in the table with a little bit of drop-down lists on top of it. So that is, my requirement is a data-driven user interface. My requirement is not to create a fancy user interface that has complicated connections with the underlying data model. So that means that ADF, in this case, is overhead, because I'm building first my data layer, and then I'm building my ADF faces application on top of it. So I actually have two components, but they're wired straight through, which means that I'm not really using the power of ADF, or you can say I don't really need the power of ADF for an application like this. Then there's VBCS, Visual Builder Cloud Service. It can import data, but only if the data exactly matches the business object that you've built. So there's an import feature, and you click on the import feature, and it tells you, no, it doesn't match. There's something wrong, and you get an error. And you try and you fix it, and then there's still something wrong, and you fix it, and it takes a while, because VBCS does not have the feature of create me a table that matches. You create a business object, and then you can load an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file that exactly matches. So the way that it works is you create your business object, then you export it. You get a CSV file. Then you cut and paste your stuff into the exported CSV file from whatever format you have, and then you can import it back in. So you can actually do round-trip engineering from VBCS out into Excel. That works well. You say, download all my data. You get a zip file with a CSV file for every business object. Then you can put data in and you can import it. That way it works well. But it doesn't do, it can't create a business object based on a spreadsheet like what our requirement actually was. Then it auto-generates IDs. So Apex will take whatever I give it. But when I put something into VBCS, VBCS says, I'll handle the IDs, please. So when I have something that comes from multiple records, and I have a meaningful key saying I have something that's called bus 53, which means a 53-seater, then when I import my list of vehicles, every one of them gets an ID, and I can't have a foreign key. I can't have a relationship between business objects in VBCS that's not the system-generated key. So in order for that to work with the import, I need to do some Excel gymnastic with lookup and actually convert my keys into numeric keys. So the import feature, not quite what we were looking for. But we got our data in, and then you build a web application, which is you have a table page, an edit page, and create page. And then one thing that VBCS does is it has great lifecycle support. So let's have a look at the at VBCS. So if I say, let's see, yeah, let's go to home. So this is Visual Builder Cloud Service. So you sign up with Oracle and you get 30 days for free, and they require a credit card and a mobile phone number. And when you're done with the 30 days, you can say, please extend my trial. You get another 30 days, and when you're done with the 60 days, then that's too bad because you can never request another trial with that phone number or that credit card. And so I've used up my own credit card, my private credit card, and my business credit card, and my private phone, and my wife's phone, and so I'm sort of out of options now. If you can see, I'm on my VBCS 6. I'm on my 6th trial, and the next, if I need another trial, I think I have to borrow my daughter's mobile phone to register for it. So so that's one of the points where with the, remember from my last presentation, the kind of people. The critical of Oracle. So I've been pretty vocal on Oracle's trials because I think they have great products, but unless they let us try them, they're going to have a hard time catching up with Amazon. So this is my application, and the lifecycle support here. This is the live version of it, and this is the staged version of it, the version that's in test. And in addition to that, there's actually, if I go and edit this application, there's actually the version I'm editing on is the development version. This tool manages lifecycle the whole way through. If I make a change to something, I can say stage or publish, or I could see the test version. If I say now I want to stage this application, say okay, I'll put it into the stage version. Do you want, by the way, would you like to keep the data you have? Would you like to have the development data pushed over, or would you like a new clean database? And when I say stage here, that version of the application goes into the staging area so my testers can work on it. So I can release something at the same time. I still have a production version running. So my actual users, or my end users, are using the production version. I'm developing on something, and whenever I feel like it, I can stage a version for my my testers. But I'm not. But I do have 3 environments in one. I do my changes, but not until I coordinate with my testers. Okay, you want a new release? Okay, I will then stage it. Then it moves to staging, and then it moves on to production. And I get it. I can move data back and forth. I can even take my data. I can take and move my data from production back into staging. For instance, I have a challenge here, something that doesn't work. I can move my data back and forth between environments. I can roll back if I want to. If I accidentally if I push something out, and the user says it has a critical bug, I can say, okay, I'll roll it back. All of that lifecycle stuff is built straight into VBCS. And that's something that we've been missing. Like there's a lot of lifecycle support in ADF with check in and check out, but it's kind of cumbersome to do the whole thing. It has a bit of a waterfall thinking behind it, and Apex doesn't really have the lifecycle support at this level. There's an Apex application. You have to do something yourself to move it to the different environments, and it doesn't handle the versions. Like you handle the version, you get a file, then you can version that. So great lifecycle support in Visual Builder Cloud Service. The way that, what was that? What did we have until 5 past? 10 past? 10 past. Ah, lots of time. Then I think we will build an application. I want to build a new application. If I say I want a mobile application, it will build me something that's a Max application, something that runs inside the Max app on my just like from Mobile Builder, from Mobile Cloud Service, something that is run inside the app. But here I'll take we'll take as we Sweden Oracle user group, and next, and what template I can choose, I have a choice of 3. I have the default Oracle look, and I have the old Oracle SaaS old Oracle SaaS applications and the new Oracle SaaS applications. I'll take the default look. Next, navigation, we'll just have one that's called transfers first, for example. So I get an application, and this is pretty much, this is visual first development. So the idea is, it always starts out with this design view here, and I can take something, there are some individual items over here that I could drop in, but I need to have some data object to have them in, so I always start with a collection item. In this case, I'll drop a table in. I said, you don't have any business objects. Would you like to create one? Yes, please. So I create a business object called tasks, and it has a new field called task name, and it has a new field called when, which is date time, and there's booleans, there's links, references, lookups, etc. that I can create. Object actions, what do I want? I want to have a create. I don't want a details page. I don't want delete. I want basic filtering. I want to be able to sort and finish. So this is my application, and now I've got a business object, and this is the Oracle will handle it thinking like, okay, so where is this business object? Well, it's in the data manager, but it's inside the tool, and I can't get at it. I can't write a SQL statement against it. If I decide I can run this application, I can go into live mode. Live mode means that I have that the application is actually running, looking the way it would look. So I have do stuff. So when do I need to do stuff? I need to do stuff tomorrow. Something like this, and save and close. So now, since I'm in live mode, I'm seeing my actual data, but I could drop extra tables, could drop extra fields in, change things around, etc. One of the things that that VBCS is strong on is responsive design. Like what my screen will look like in various sizes. So it has some phone portrait, landscape, tablet portrait, landscape, screen, big screen, small screen. So I have my create screen here. If I have more space, now my create screen is over here. My screen resolution is a bit squeezed. But if I go on a tablet, it would have to be different, so it moves the button up on top there. If I go to my edit page and say, well, actually, I don't want, in case I'm on, go back to my design view, I'm selecting this, my when, one of my items. Then I can go up here and say, here is my my responsive design. When I'm on a tablet portrait, I want to see it. But what, for instance, if I'm go on a phone portrait, I don't have much space, so I don't want to see it. Now that part is just built straight into the tool, that it automatically handles. Like the browser sends you, this is the viewpoint, this is what it looks like. When I turn my phone, the browser tells the server, hey, the orientation or the resolution changes, and then your VBCS application automatically recognizes that. So that's a strong point that this tool has. It's something that's built straight in. It also actually has security rules, so I can set security rules like only these people are allowed to see these fields. So if I go here and say, here are the roles. This role can see, the salary, and this role counts. And when I want to test it, I'll go and see, okay, now I want to run it as user X, or I want to run it as somebody from accounting, or I want to run it as somebody from HR. So it has some nice features, but we are in the we are very much in the graph I had in the last presentation in the top left corner. There are very few things I can do. Those things I can do very well. But if I want to go outside of this, that's tough. So lifecycle support, and we saw some of the development approach. If I want to add UI logic to my application, then in Apex I have all the dynamic actions. I can trigger stuff that happens in the database. In ADF I have managed Java beans. So in ADF I actually have Java classes behind my UI, so I have the full power of Java programming. And in VBCS, not much. So I have actions, but my actions, like, these are the actions I can do. I can navigate back, I can open a business object, but I can show a message, but there is a place a call. Probably would only work on a phone. And I have this option of custom JavaScript code. Only the custom code that if I go and look up what for one thing, I have to write my JavaScript code inside this browser field, which gives me no help. And then anything I want to do, I need to do a lot of JavaScript mumbo jumbo to access the actual fields or the actual logic. So even though it's being presented as you can extend a VBCS application writing JavaScript, well, you could if you wanted to. If you were a JavaScript wizard and you wanted to, but if you need to expand it with JavaScript, then it's probably not the right tool. So there is a little bit of code, but I would not recommend using it in real life. The stuff it does well, but it is very limited. Data logic, like business logic that does not affect the UI. Well, in Apex we would use the PL SQL in the database. In ADF we have the business components layer, which is Java code, so we can override the methods, the standard handling. We have a lot of options there. And in VBCS, well, VBCS only builds the UI. I built something here that that was based on where I created a business object. But if I want to have, let's say, I can go into the data designer view. Now you can see this is a modern cool tool, because the new black in development is black. So, but if I go to the data designer, then I'm back to Oracle. So actually, I think if I go to, I think we'll probably go into let's see, this application, because it has a few more data objects. So the data designer, and I look at my business objects, and you can see I can actually have relationships here. So it will allow me a few simple things. If I say I want to create a relationship between equipment and users or whatever, or maybe it doesn't really make sense. I think we should probably take task is the one that actually has reasonable relationship. Tasks to equipment. So I can say it will generate me. It's some kind of database relationship stuff. It can do a master detail, so you can have a child and a parent and a lookup, but don't go overboard with this. Like if you have a master and a detail, you're at the limit of VBCS or a lookup table. Then I have so a task has equipment, operators, people, services, etc., status codes. So I have a couple of relations here from my tasks business object. But what I can also do here is I can use services. So if I create a service, add a service from a catalog, then what Oracle is building this, as an add-on to their software as a service to their cloud applications. If you buy Oracle HR in the cloud, Oracle Finance in the cloud, then you get a catalog here. Once you've connected your VBCS service with your Oracle SaaS service, then you have a catalog here. You have a service that says, this is create person, this is update person, or this is create transaction, or whatever UI that Oracle has provided. Or I can say, I want something that just connects to a REST service somewhere. So if I want to, okay, well we're kind of running out of time. I can connect to a REST service somewhere. So if I want to add a service, I can say it's a generic REST service. Okay, what is the URL? So I can use VBCS on top of a REST data service that I have somewhere. Especially for Oracle Clouds, Oracle SaaS, Oracle HR Cloud, etc., this is a powerful tool for all the little things that they didn't build into the tool. So, my comparison here, from end-user UI, Apex and ADF both do well. VBCS, not so good. It's fairly limited, but it can do, it does well. UI development, all of them have their little quirks, but they're all they all have a pretty good development experience. Writing UI logic, I can do quite a bit in Apex on the UI side with JavaScript and with dynamic actions. Now, ADF has the full power of having a Java class behind your UI, so you can do anything you want from the UI or from the data. So that's where ADF is strong. Now, data logic in Apex, well, it happens in the database. So of course it's powerful. It's not really part of Apex, but it's part of an Apex application. VBCS doesn't really do UI logic. The JavaScript features are, I think the only people who can use them are the Oracle product managers, but they do good demos. And data logic, not really. It has to be you have to put it into your REST data services, and there's stuff that becomes more difficult when your data source is a REST service. Development speed, well, for what it does it very fast. Apex is also fast, and ADF, no, it takes longer to develop applications in ADF. Lifecycle support, that's where VBCS shines. ADF has good lifecycle support. That's one of the things that Apex, for all its other qualities, does not have.
Do you know, sorry,
yes?
Do you know anything that will come later versions? Anything they're looking
in Apex? Not that anything that has to do with lifecycle support. Like Apex has the fundamental problem that we've always had with versioning records in databases. A lot of an Apex application is records that's stored in a database. And having versions of individual records in a database is just a hard IT problem. So I don't think that, I think they've chosen their approach, and I don't think that they're going to change that. So those were the three tools, and the chosen tool was to continue with Apex. So we're doing an Apex 5.1 application, because this use case, it's a data-driven application. What we want is to have a spreadsheet. We want to have an application that does what the spreadsheet does, only better. And Apex is the spreadsheet killer application, and it was the right tool for this case. I think I've spent all my time. If you have any questions or comments, then come up to me afterwards. Thank you.